Hi, my name is Matt. We're here today to do a little bit of a training video on our ClimateSeal interior magnetic window insert system. We're going to be looking at a few things from actual placement in relation to your window, how much depth we have, the type of mounting applications that are available to you with our in-jam and our flush mount applications, and actually installing a few windows today to help you do-it-yourselfers, contractors, and others with the system. So let's get started. Okay, so the first step prior to actually measuring for your ClimateSeal window inserts is to determine the actual mounting location. And depending on what you have to work with and the type of construction, today we're working with 2x6 construction, so we've got a lot more room and area with which to work with. We've got deep jams, we've also got deep sills. However, we do have specific blinds with which we have to work with, and these blinds are approximately 1.5 inches wide. So behind here is we have to use sort of more of a shallow installation. So we have to determine how much space we have to work with, measure that, and then determine what type of metal framing that we use. Today, because we have over 2 inches to work with, we're going to be using our standard 15/16 by 15/16 L angle. The combination of your attachment system plus the depth of our 3/4 inch window, the ClimateSeal itself, will give us a total depth of about 1.75 inches. So we're going to go ahead and measure now. One of the other things we want to talk about are the two types of installs. The most common is our in-jam mount, and our in-jam mount has our metal angle attachment sitting inside the jams, and then the window will magnetize to the face of the frame. The other option is to use our surface mount application. And surface mount means that you're outside on the surface of the window cavity, and the metal itself will cap over your window trim. Okay, so right now we're looking at exactly what type of attachment we're going to use. Like I said, we do have our 15/16 metal angle. We have other options for you as well. If we are to use our standard 15/16 by 15/16 metal, it's going to mount within 1/8 of an inch of your primary window's actual frame. We don't want to interrupt the operation of the existing window, say in a double hung. These are horizontal sliders, but what I'm trying to show here is that we would typically mount the metal about 1/8 of an inch from the primary window frame, and then our ClimateSeal window insert will actually sit, after it's screwed in on the back, it will sit on the face and will magnetize directly to the metal. If we don't have at least 1.5 to 1.75 inches to work with of depth space, we need to come closer to the primary window, and we do that by using our inverted angle. And our inverted angle is basically the same dimensions, but instead of projecting into the room, it's actually going to project towards the outside, and therefore we'll mount it this way. Our fasteners will screw in here, and the window insert, instead of sitting on the face, will actually sit inside the pocket. We only need 1 inch to work with at that point. And we've determined the actual mounting location, which for this particular job is going to be in-jam. We've also determined which type of attachment system we're going to use, which is our standard 15/16 angle. Now we're ready to begin measuring. And based on our measuring form, it's very detailed, but the ones that are most critical, especially when you don't have out-of-square windows, are measurements A, B, C, D, and E. A through C are your top, middle, and bottom width, and D and E are your left and right height. Here we're not big on rounding the tape measure, so we actually like to go specifically butted up against, and on the back of each tape measure should actually have the added dimensions. So take your opening measurements and then add what the tape measure says. So we just want to go ahead and butt it up against the left jam, come over to the right jam, lock it in place, and then actually read the finished measurement plus adding what's on the back of the tape measure. So again, we've got A, B, and C for our widths, and then we actually have left and right height. So the D measurement, again, rest it directly on the sill, butt it up against the top inside the header, lock it in place, read the dimension, also do the same for E, and we're done. So, next phase is how to install the actual climate seal. You've taken your measurements, we've done the deductions here in the factory, and now we're ready to install. For this particular opening, we've actually taken out the window treatment and its hardware to make the installation easier, and we're ready to begin. Before we install, we have to actually prep our attachment system with either a weather strip foam or a double face tape. Because we've got a wood surface to work with, we're going to use our weather strip foam. It's got adhesive on one side, and it's got a wax paper backing on the other, which we're actually going to peel off prior to the installation. So we're going to take our bare metal. We have two painted edges. We have two primed painted edges. But we're going to put the actual weather strip foam on one of the painted edges. It's actually very simple. All we need to do is take a piece of the foam weather strip, apply it right to the edge. All the metal is cut, rough cut, so what we want you to do is actually prep it prior to the final cut. We've accounted for the actual linear footage requirements needed, so there will be no issue of actually running short. But just prep it nice and easy, 6-inch increments. Make sure you press down firm so there's no air pockets or bubbles. And when we get to the end, we're going to use just a utility knife, cut the edge off. Once it's done and there's no air pockets, you can go ahead and take off the wax paper backing, peel that off. And like I mentioned, this is not sticky. So that way if you ever need to take it down and out of your opening, you're not scraping off any adhesive. Next step, after we've actually prepped the metal angle with our weather strip foam, we're going to install the header angle first. So we're ready to cut that first piece. And the best way to do it, it can be a little tricky with the longer pieces, but what we're going to do here, we've got a measurement of 70 1/4. I like to use a utility knife with a blade because I get a thin edge and I think a better, more clear cut, but you can also use a pen or a carpenter's pencil or whatnot. So we're just trying to take a little score line right now, make that score. Once that's done, then we're going to go ahead and use an edge of a piece, metal. Take a cut off piece that you've got, use it on the edge. That way you can create a perfect straight edge, score your line, and go ahead and make your cut. What we're using is a pair of Wisp brand tin snips.